Hi everyone, my name is Terri and welcome to my channel, The Pink Dumbbell Problem. This is a new episode in the Friday Fact Day series where I get to talk about my work in fitness, feminism, and philosophy. And today's facts are all about lifting heavy. Now, I say it at the end of every video, lift heavy and fight the patriarchy. Lift heavy, 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 fight the patriarchy. But what does it actually mean? Well, today we're going to unpack all of that. Before I do, and because I always forget this and end up tacking it on at the end, I'd like to remind everybody to please like this video, give it the thumbs up button, share it with friends, family, colleagues, and also hit the subscribe button down below. I'm getting really close to my next milestone of subscribers, so please help me out and give me the click on that. All right, on with the show. What does it actually mean to lift heavy, and why am I always saying to do that? And what does that have to do with fighting the patriarchy? And my little pink dumbbells that sit back there on my equipment shelf, you're finally going to get to see those up close. Why do we use weights and why are heavy ones better? So first of all, anytime we do what we call strength training, you're using any product that creates resistance. So it can be something that's heavy like a weight. It can be something that tries to contain your movement like a resistance band. It can even be the weight of your own body. And the idea is that you produce force, and that's what strength is. It's a measurement of how much force you can produce. You produce force against that object by pushing it or pulling it. And eventually, that's what makes your muscles stronger. Why is heavy better? It's about time under tension. So the more time your muscles are tensing up to hold something, pushing it, pulling it, whatever, the more you're going to recruit the individual muscle fibers and get them working. The other reason, and this is the one that people either aren't aware of or they ignore or they downplay it as less important, but it's totally not, is that you have to develop new neural pathways, new bits of information going into the computer that is your brain that tells your muscles what to do. In order to do that really well, you have to have what we call kinesthetic feedback. Heavier resistance implements, particularly weights, will do a better job of that. That means, for example, if you are learning to do a deadlift, where you've got the bar on the floor, you're leaning forward and you're pulling the bar upright. You will not have to ask me, what muscles am I supposed to be working here on this exercise? Because you'll know. If you're lifting something that's too light, you're not going to have to recruit all the muscles that need to be used to do an exercise properly. If something is heavy enough for you to have to put some effort into lifting it, then you're going to have no choice but to use all the muscles required. And that's why we don't love people using little tiny ones that weigh next to nothing, because you can be doing, say, a bicep curl with this and going, I don't know, I'm not feeling anything. Well, if you're not feeling anything, you're not doing anything. You're not accomplishing anything for the muscle. All you're doing at that point is lubricating your elbow. Whatever amount of weight you lift has to be challenging. And for the vast majority of people, this ain't it. So why do trainers and fitness instructors constantly have to beg people to lift heavy? Couple of reasons. The reason I encourage women in particular, or anybody who's identified as feminine, to lift heavy is because throughout history, we've been taught that we can't do it and that there's somehow some extra danger inherent in women lifting heavy or that we're not capable of doing it. There was historical precedent that it would damage us in some irreparable way, damage our femininity, all of that. The other big fear that people who identify as feminine have quite often is looking too bulky. The idea that it's not feminine to have big, bulky muscles, and if you lift anything too heavy, you'll get huge muscles, and it's going to look too masculine when you want to look feminine. I've already covered this, I know, but I do have to repeat it every so often. You cannot get extremely bulky by doing basic, heavy lifting, weight training workouts a couple of times a week. People are out there picturing bodybuilders, rippling, bulging muscles. You have to understand that those folks train like it's their full-time job. That level of muscular hypertrophy, the visible changes or gains in the muscle, that comes from participating at a very high sport level, and it's easily 6 to 8 hours a day of training every day. The second reason that people get concerned about using heavyweight is because they've been told they're going to get injured. And I think this goes back again to some of those old-fashioned, really outdated ideas that women in particular doing anything related to physical activity is going to harm us in some way. And even though we don't necessarily believe in things like bicycle face anymore, or hysteria, where if you're too active, your uterus will fall out, any of those things seem ridiculous by today's standards. But we still have this idea that women in particular are going to be harmed by doing this thing because it's a guy thing. But here's the thing. If you are doing something that's too light, again, a 1-pound dumbbell or something, the risk of injury is actually just as high. And in fact, I've seen with some individuals quite a bit higher. What happens is people tend to swing a joint like this. And this is really terrible form for a bicep curl. And I'm using bicep curls because that's what fits in the frame of my camera here, but this applies to any exercise. So if you can just swing freely, almost as if you had nothing in your hand at all, you're not really engaging the muscles at that point. There's any kind of opportunity for you to fling your arm around, move your shoulder, not keep your elbow tucked in, and not really use a lot of intention in how you're squeezing that muscle. Now, if this was really, really heavy and you had to really concentrate on squeezing to pull this up to the top position, you're going to definitely use the muscle. You're not going to be moving your shoulder at all. You're going to want to stabilize in that shoulder. You're going to keep the elbow tucked in where it belongs. So it can actually be quite a bit more dangerous to go with something too light than with something too heavy. I always put lift heavy and fight the patriarchy together. It's a combination of the bulk not being feminine, therefore you shouldn't do it, and the lifting not being feminine, therefore you're going to get yourself hurt, so you better not do it. All of those messages, time after time, decade after decade, century after century, have convinced a lot of people that women in particular shouldn't lift heavy. And that's not to say that people who are identified as men are not also getting messages about potential for injury. That absolutely does happen, particularly for the very young or the very old. There is an age factor there. But the messaging to male-identified people is nowhere near the volume of messaging sent towards feminine-identified people. So yes, ladies, lift heavy. The other reason, of course, is it really pisses people off. So do it for that reason, if nothing else. It's pretty rare nowadays, but there are still some people out there who just get so mad when a woman is really good at lifting or can lift a heavy amount or whatever. And you know what? Good. Let them be mad. Because they are the kind of people who need to learn that women can lift heavy just like anybody else, and that we absolutely should. Of course, telling women that we can't lift heavy and we're going to get bulky and we're going to get injured is all just a very subtle way of making sure that we aren't as strong as we can potentially be, and therefore not as independent. And so that's why I say fight the patriarchy with lift heavy all the time, because the patriarchal system out there wants women to be weak, and it wants us to believe that that's our natural state where we're supposed to be, and that anybody who's not is an outlier or a freak or whatever. You have a lot more potential to be physically strong than you probably realize. In that sense, lifting heavy literally does fight the patriarchy. And hey, you look great in a tank top. So there you have it, folks. Don't let the bastards keep you weak. I know the phrase is don't let the bastards grind you down, but close enough. Don't let people squish you into a tiny little space and say, oh, you can't do it, you're going to get bulky, or oh, you can't do it, you're going to get injured. No, they're feeding into the patriarchal ideas, and that needs to go. So, I guess you know what I'm going to say next. Thanks for watching, everybody. And as always, lift heavy, fight the patriarchy. I'll see you for the next one. Bye.